there's these nuggets here, right? Like what he was talking about with Jubilee on the bleed lane stuff. Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time for volume 2 of the Horseman rankings. What we're looking at right now, that's my general rankings. You know, we're on like our 22, 23, I don't know how many iterations of this now. A little sneak peek at Hulkling. Hopefully you caught my essentials video on him, really going over all the things you would want to know. And that's my prediction for where he's going to end up this month and maybe in the future. But this video is about Horsemen, and so many of you have watched those rankings videos, really enjoyed them, and said, you know, what about this champion as a Horseman? What about that champion as a Horseman? And I just don't want to put them on the regular tier list because that's about rank up advice, and almost any mutant gets at least a little bit better as a Horseman, but you have to weigh. Now I am removing the ramp up of Apocalypse, and Apocalypse is so good. So as you know, or as I'm sure you will know, I get help with this from the rankings team. I call them the MCoC Illuminati. They are so incredibly smart at this game. And one of them volunteered to rank the Horsemen, to go through, do a thorough analysis and say, like, here's where this champion is. Here's why it's either worthy of ranking of draining Apocalypse to make them a Horseman with that pre-fight. And also talk about, sometimes it's just the synergy, right? Like with Cable, you see Cable right there in the top shelf. That's just purely the synergy with Apocalypse. So let's thank Sleimon. I am very grateful to him for volunteering for this. He is a exceptional player now in GT40. Like I think they're on their 6th war championship in a row. I feel confident in saying that. We got 1 week left in the season, and they are just dominating. And Sleimon's doing an amazing job. The link to his channel is in the description. Will also be on the spreadsheet. Please do me and yourself a big favor. Go subscribe to his channel and let him know that it was from this video. Say, hey, thanks for all the work you're doing. Really excited to see more Horseman rankings from you and your analysis on them. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to the Horseman spreadsheet. Pretty excited to do this. We got 4 champions for you, highlighted by Storm. Okay, as you can see, we're gonna do Psylocke, Jubilee, X-23, and Storm. I think Storm is definitely the highlight. And there's an interesting one in here. I think it's gonna maybe surprise some people. We're going to briefly talk about the Horseman pre-fight and what that actually does. I know it still gets confused in the community, and you know, it is a little confusing because some of these champions have such great synergies, and then the pre-fight, Horseman pre-fight adds a lot to it, right? So purely from making a mutant a Horseman, they're going to become 100% bleed resistant, have an indefinite passive prowess, increasing special damage by 50%. A 30% offensive ability accuracy. That's one of the massive things for Archangel. I mean, he's already incredible, but that really takes him up a notch. Going unblockable for 2 seconds when the opponent purifies his debuff. That's really dependent on how many debuffs are being landed and how much you can take advantage of that. Again, a champion will very much come up on this. Some great analysis by Sleimon on that one. And then once per fight, go unstoppable for 30 seconds when struck. That's just nice. No champion that I'm aware of am I ever going to say like, yeah, that's no big deal. Just take the hit to the face. You're fine. So I think that's something to weigh. The thing is, and I want to always have this in the back of the mind when talking about this, you're draining Apocalypse to do this. He's good with 1 genetic code. He's amazing with 4. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and talk about Psylocke first. Okay, we're gonna move pretty quickly through Psylocke. She's a quality champion as it is. I have her ranked in my call tier. I know a lot of people really like her. If you wanna rank her up and you wanna do some good things with her, you can. You just really invest a lot. And just honestly, there's a lot of champions who's superior to her, but she can get some stuff done, right? Let's go ahead and we'll move quickly through what the Horseman does for her there. 100% bleed resistant. I mean, that's nice, right? I'm never gonna say that that's not nice. Indefinite prowess, increasing special damage. Special damage isn't necessarily her thing anyways. It's not like the specials are that large, so increasing them by 50%, that's great, but it's not like you're increasing this 100k special too or something like that. The 30% offensive ability accuracy, that's fine, right? It increased chance to gain the side charge and basic attack from the APOC synergy. It's already coming from the synergy there. So the ultimate effect of the Horseman, it's not massive, right? Slay did a really nice job of making that clear. Going unblockable for 2 seconds when the opponent purifies a debuff. She only applies 1 debuff. It's that power lock, and you kind of want that on there. So I don't really know how much you're taking her to use up against purifying champions anyway. So it would feel like an odd mix. I think you can see kind of where we're going with this. Then the once per fight unstoppable, that's just going to be beneficial to all mutants. I don't think we really need to delve into that too much more. Now, she has the basic synergy with Apocalypse, meaning basic attacks have a 30% chance to gain a side charge. With Horseman, this goes up to 39%, 30 to 39. That's nice. 5% crit rating increase per side charge. So you're getting your increased rating going, right? Because you're getting the more side charges. None of this is bad. None of this is bad. But ultimately, and we'll go ahead and kind of reveal here. I think you can probably tell where I was headed with this anyway. It doesn't really change the ranking for her, right? The ranking is so much about like rank up advice. And so if she was a Horseman, she came with these abilities, it really wouldn't change that much. I think, and this is what Slay ultimately ends up saying too here, is you still much better off with your Apocalypse. Even this is like a 5-star maxed out Apocalypse and you had a rank 3 6-star Psylocke, unless there was just something about the node, the quest, the defender that absolutely called for that sort of power control, and for some reason you didn't have anyone else, I guess go Psylocke and sure, make her a Horseman if you don't think you need Apocalypse for anything else. But ultimately, it's not a massive difference for her. So she stays in the same place. Obviously, just a little bit improved. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Jubilee. Okay, with Jubilee, there's kind of some surprising stuff. Slay really just showing how smart he is on this game. In essence, here's the thing. 100% bleed resistant. He's like, she's quite good for bleed heavy lanes such as Caltrop, since the bleed resistance means she's healing via willpower. Okay, that's going to be any of these mutants though. But here's the thing. And she's able to convert all those dot debuffs, being like the bleed, right, on her, the debuffs have to be on her, into shocks on the opponent with the SP1 while in her orange fireworks stance or mode or whatever it's called. He even says, this isn't game changing, but that is kind of nice. Like that's kind of something there that's more than just she's now bleed resistant. You're gonna get a little bit of healing from willpower while it's on you. The indefinite passive prowess increases special damage by 50%. That's large. That's large, and with her, this is actually pretty big. Her base prowess increased damage by 12.5% and has a stat max stat of 12. The Horseman prowess is essentially 4 more of her base prowess added on for free. That's really nice. And Jubilee's a decent to quality champion as it is. The 30% offensive ability accuracy doesn't affect her much. Going unblockable for 2 seconds when the opponent purifies a debuff. Really nice, but with her, it's not that great because most of those debuffs are coming off her specials, and by the time the animation's done, you've really used up the unblockable, is what he's saying. And then once per fight, then stop for 3 seconds, like we've already said, that's really good. Conclusion though, it really doesn't change her ranking. Part of that is because she's a fine champion as it is. She starts off in premium and she stays in premium. The reason is she was already pretty good. These things that are providing a nice benefit, the nice kind of, we'll call it a bit of a cheese there with the bleed resistant on a Caltrops lane or something like that. That's not that often in this game. And you're still gonna have a lot of mutants who are gonna handle that better for you anyway. If you like Jubilee and you wanna make her a Horseman, go for it, have fun with it. But as far as like rank up advice, this isn't propelling her to the top or really making a massive, massive material difference for her. As a result, objectively, is it worth draining APOC to create a Horseman Jubilee? No, it's really, really not. All right, let's move on to X-23. Okay, with X-23, the game has really passed her by in a lot of ways. She was never like at the top of it anyway, but it's just moved on. I'll move as quickly as I can through the Horseman stuff here. Bleed resistance, we've already gone over that, but there's nothing special or unique that's happening to her in that way. The indefinite prowess, you really in general don't want to be throwing specials anyway, so the increase in the damage, it's not big for her kit. It just doesn't fit in. The 30% offensive ability accuracy, now that's nice, right? Critical hits are now guaranteeing a bleed or cruelty if they're bleed immune. Your regen chance goes up slightly, but none of this is significant. The going unblockable for 2 seconds when the opponent purifies a debuff. You want the opponent to have debuffs, so you're not really taking her in for debuff matchups anyway. It's just an odd use for her. You're probably going to have someone better in your roster. If you're at the point where you can make someone a Horseman and you're considering doing it for X-23, chances are you've already got someone better for that lane where debuff purifying is an issue or a problem. And then of course, like we mentioned, the going unstoppable, that is what it is. So unfortunately, and this is why we don't want to include these too much in the tier list itself. This is why we're doing this separately. Sleimon is saying, She's call, she stays in call. Is it worth draining Apocalypse? Absolutely not. You got to ramp up Apocalypse. Use that Apocalypse instead of X-23. Okay, and the star of the show, it's obviously Storm, right? There's no debating that, especially with this group of 4. I'm going to do a lot of reading on this one because Slay's notes are just so good and he really thinks through the process here. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Sleimon. So we're going to start off because she actually does have a synergy with Apocalypse. So just having the synergy, not making her a Horseman. So with just the Apocalypse synergy alone, Storm is a very unreliable source of shock damage. He's talking about purely the shock damage there. He's separating these out. You'll understand more as we go. However, with the Horseman and that synergy, theoretically capable of the highest codable amount of dot damage in the game, given a fight long enough. So these long, like Abyss of Legends, that sort of thing that we've seen before. It doesn't even really take her that long to get going. 1 SP1 and a couple heavies later, and you'll be doing a couple thousand a tick. She likely can kill fights faster than Cable with the condition that the health pool is on the larger side. When we get to the conclusion, you're going to hear a little bit of a comparison with Cable. As you saw, Cable is in the top shelf tier with the synergy with Apocalypse. It's important to keep in mind. All right, so let's go on through like what actually happens when she is made a Horseman, 100% bleed resistant. He's saying probably the best cheese for bleed lanes ever, right? Each time she gains a bleed, she gains 2 prowess. Prowess is increasing her special damage. If she's 100% bleed resistant, she's constantly being healed through willpower on top of every bleed, increasing her special damage by 40%, caltrops, biohazard, that sort of thing. That's really nice. That's not essentially why you're doing this, but it's nice to know. It's nice to have. Keep in mind though that it's 100% bleed resistant, not bleed immune. And so you want to be careful there just in case those bleeds, I think, become too potent or you start stacking too many, something like that. All right, and then indefinite passive prowess increases special damage by 50%, saying nice boost of special damage, but insignificant to the special damage increase that Storm can achieve with her base kit. Okay, so they're starting to get relative here. Each of her prowesses are 20% increase to special damage. So the permanent indefinite prowess is worth 2.5 of her prowess. Gaining 3 prowess with Storm is nothing, so this indefinite prowess doesn't affect much. And ultimately what he's saying is you're going to be gaining so many of these prowesses that this isn't massive, although I could see maybe on like a shorter fight, getting something done quickly, something like that. It does not have no value. Let's put it that way. The 30% offensive ability accuracy. Most of Storm's kit is coded with a 100% chance for most of her ability effects to happen, like the SB2 stun, that sort of thing. The only thing this ability accuracy increases will affect is the shocks off of the SP1. It makes it so that at least 1 shock is virtually guaranteed to happen from her SP1, 99.9% chance. This is very minor, but also is nice to have so that you can get her crazy shock damage going, right? So this is not just this damage off the special, this is that shock damage that we see and it builds up that really nice dot. Going to block for 2 seconds when the opponent purifies a debuff. She already has an anti-purification ability whenever her stun is shrugged. So he doesn't really believe this is part of the Horseman profile that much of a game changer. It's nice, but it's not massively changing anything. If you're using her with Horseman plus APOC synergy against someone that can shrug debuffs, it's much more effective to go for the big special damage than shock anyway. So if you're using her against, let's say, like Kingpin, you're probably going for the big special as opposed to trying to load up all of these shocks. Shocks are her only other main debuff outside of stuns, which is already covered in her base kit. So this isn't, again, it's similar to the kind of all the other champions we've mentioned in this particular video. You've already got something that's being handled for the shruggers, the debuff shruggers, and you're probably not trying to land a bunch of shocks anyway. You're just going for the big special damage. So I get what he's saying here. The once per fight go unstoppable. You know, we've already talked a lot about that. Okay, and then we're just gonna show this while we talk a little bit about it. She's super premium without Horseman, all right? Just on her own, she is fantastic. Now, you wanna make her a Horseman, she gets elevated to the top shelf, and you can't help but kind of compare this to Cable. Now, I'm a little bit biased towards Cable because Cable gets Apocalypse at the genetic code instantly. He's instantly at 4, and for Cable, it's just the synergy, right? And with Storm, we're talking about as a Horseman. So I'll read Slay's notes again, because they're just so good. This was a really hard one to rank. The key factor is I don't think she's overall better or worse than Cable. Kind of about the same, just different. Cable is good, if not better than Storm in terms of speed, right? The lower health pool, we see this in War, how quickly he can get those degenerations going and finish this off. On top of that, he's indisputably the best synergy partner for arguably the best mutant in the game. In other words, like I said, he gets APOC at the 4 genetic code instantly, that fight number 1. Like if you want to run Horseman Storm, you'd have to bring Cable along for that. In essence, to get Storm as a Horseman early, you're basically bringing Cable or King along anyway, then having to make Storm a Horseman. It's a bit convoluted. However, I do think it's reasonable that they could be in the same tier, and the Horseman is a significant improvement to her damage in 2 ways: scale and type of damage. Storm can now hit big yellow numbers and big red ones, making her a lot more versatile on top of the other utility her base kit and Horseman provides, being the cherry on top. And he's got a good point there. I hadn't really thought about that. Like, the SB2 on Cable is not bad. I've actually talked about it in videos. I'm a big fan of Cable with the APOC synergy, but it's all red damage, right? It's all that dot with the degen. With Storm, she can hit these massive SB2s and you can get massive shock damage going. So there is a bit more versatility there. I understand what he's saying. It makes a really good point. Ultimately, is it worth draining an Apocalypse to do this? And here's Slay's thoughts. I think Storm is one of the best cases when it comes to being a Horseman, outside of the obvious ones. He means like Archangel. I think, as always, it will depend on the context of whether or not you should Horseman Storm. I believe she's absolutely one of the best path clearers in Abyss when she has the Horseman pre-fight. Take Abyss fights down in 3 to 4 minutes and 100 hits or less. She's insane for nodes like Safeguard, Biohazard, Shock Vulnerability. I think we've gone over it. Hopefully you understand. If you don't, ask it in the comment section. If you come across a lane where the big damage solves anything, I think it's worth the pre-fight. However, if you need more utility from champ, I'd stick to keeping the 4 charges with APOC. So much of this is because Apocalypse is so incredible. But what Slay is saying really makes a lot of sense. Like, these nodes or something like that really play into what Storm is doing, or you need that. But if you need the utility off of APOC, you're probably better off keeping it. The synergy with Storm is quite nice. She's good on her own. But if we're looking just purely at a ranking advice, if you've got a Horseman Storm, she's top shelf. She definitely believes it. She's not the same as Cable, but I like his analogy and I like the way he's thinking about this as far as relative value to an account and clearing content, how widely usable it's going to be. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really enjoying this. I'm going to look for ways to kind of not necessarily spice it up, but I think it'd be kind of cool while we're talking to have maybe a clip of the action actually happening, something like that, just having some fun with it. But please, like I said, go subscribe to Slay's channel, let him know, thank you for doing this, and then he'll keep doing it and we'll keep getting these videos out. They are a lot of fun, and I know there's these nuggets here, right? Like what he was talking about with Jubilee on the bleed lane, stuff like that. I hadn't really thought of that, and Jubilee's such a fun character. She's actually good in this game too. Very usable. So if you've got like a 5-star APOC or you just love Jubilee, there's some nice advantages to make her a Horseman. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I hope you either learned something, were entertained, or even better, a little bit of both. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.